Hi, I'm Bob Spinozzi, and welcome to Small Town. You know, on either side of Littleton, we have two extraordinary charity organizations. Acton has Household Goods, which provides a whole range of donated furniture and household items to people who need a helping hand. In Devens, you'll find Loaves and Fishes, and they provide nutritional food to folks from all walks of life who could also use some assistance. Now, today's show will take us to Devens, where Loaves and Fishes is located. We're going to hear how a charity organization provides over 600,000 pounds of food every year for their clients. And yes, you heard me correctly, over 600,000 pounds of food. Not exactly small potatoes. Now with me today from Loaves and Fishes to talk about this great organization are Executive Director Patty Stern and board member and volunteer Scott Lewis. Thank you both for being with me here today.
Thank you for having us.
Patty, why don't we start out by giving the folks a little bit of a history lesson on Loaves and Fishes. I believe you started in 1983.
We did.
You've had a lot of changes through the years. Let's talk about all that.
Sure. We did start in 1983, and we were really the brainchild of three women in Harvard who decided that there were people in their neighborhoods that needed some help. And at that point in time, they organized, with the community support, a hot meal program. And at the end of that year, they were very proud of their efforts. They had served 50 families in that hot meal program. But they knew at that point that there were more people who needed help, and so we evolved. Loaves and Fishes then became a pantry, and today we are what we call a client choice pantry, 36 years later.
Now, you've had significant changes, though, through these years. Mm-hmm. Why don't you tell us about those? You've moved.
We have.
You've gotten the benefit of getting some permanent housing for a very inexpensive price.
We have been very, very, very fortunate. We started in the basements of a couple of churches in Ayr, St. Andrew's and the Federated Church, and then we moved to a couple of locations on Devens. Mass Development was very gracious to us and provided us with some space. And today, we are at 234 Barnum Road in Devens, and we acquired that building, which had many, many uses in the days of Fort Devens, for $1 and a can of peas. And then through a crazy campaign, capital campaign, volunteers were able to raise $1.4 million. And with that money, they were able to break the building back down to its bones and rebuild it as a pantry. That was the first big deal for us. And then last year, we realized that there will be another recession, much like there was back in 2010, 11, in that area. For us, the height of that recession was 2013. We saw nearly 1,000 families come through our door. And now we are serving about 850 families. So we knew that we needed to reconfigure our facility to better deal with that potential increase in population that will come down the line. So we embarked upon a reconfiguration of the interior of our facility, and we now have a very functional, very nice flow facility for our clients.
Scott, you've been participating there for quite a few years.
Yes, I've been volunteering for quite a few years now and became a board member along the way. And we have, as Patty said, the reconfiguration was a pretty big project, and that was not a project I spent a lot of time on, but as a board member, I was very happy to see it happen, because if you went to a grocery store and it took you as long to shop for your groceries as it was taking clients to get through the pantry before the reconfiguration, you would shop elsewhere. And people that really needed our help were sometimes choosing not to get our help because it took too long to get through the process. And so with the reconfiguration, we've been now able to gradually increase that speed so that people can get through in a more normal time, and that we believe will help people be happier to come there and get the help that they really need.
Now, Scott, you mentioned board of directors. Let's talk about Loaves and Fishes. It consists of board of directors, your staff, all the support organizations that are involved, and a group of very dedicated and talented volunteers. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and if I can go backwards for just a second and
Sure.
start with the volunteers. The volunteers, there's over 300 active volunteers at the pantry, and this past year they gave over 18,600 hours of their time to making this thing work and taking care of people that need their help. And there's volunteers that do all kinds of things, whether it's showing up once a year for a special event, or there are some volunteers who are there every time we're open almost. And so they're volunteers that will give 800 hours of their time in a year to the pantry. And then there are some that give a couple of hours, and they're all important to us. Lots of different roles, whether it's putting food on the shelves or helping clients shop for their food or taking care of things when there's no clients around. There's lots of things to do, whether it's marketing or collecting food from our donation boxes, emptying coin canisters in the community, bringing those in. And so the volunteers are critically important. And that leads up to the staff. The staff is only 7 people, and only 2 of them are full-time. And we're feeding 850 families or so, and moving 600,000 pounds of food. So you can imagine that would be impossible with the staff alone. And so the staff is really there to facilitate and operate the program and the facility and help those volunteers be effective. And the board's job is really to provide governance and oversight to all of that. Many of the board members are also volunteers, but the board members, and there's 8 of them currently, are really there to help set policy and direction and build our strategic plan. We're in our 3rd year now of executing a strategic plan that we updated a while ago. And our focus now is really on finding more of the clients that need our help and making sure they know we're there, because if you look at the statistics, we know we're not yet reaching all the people in the 7 communities we serve that might need our help. And then also on making sure that we have enough food to feed them should we succeed in getting them into the pantry. And so a lot of that is done by the staff and the volunteers and the supporting organizations. And those donors, whether they're individual donors or business partners in the community, towns, the Council on Aging here in Littleton, the town itself, the school system are examples of partners of ours that help both get the word out and operate food drives and other things for our benefit. And then, of course, there's the businesses. And so we're very blessed to have the support of organizations large and small that do everything from donate money, which has a big impact, and it's a relatively easy thing to do if you can afford it. But we also have organizations who do things like provide some of their paid staff on payroll during times the pantry is open to help us operate the pantry. And some of those organizations will tell us that they get so much more than they would get by writing a check. It's a team building and morale building thing for their employees. So really all of that comes together to make the pantry what it is.
And Patty, if any of our viewers would like to volunteer, how do they get in touch
There's a
with you?
couple of ways they can do that. They can call us, 978-772-4627. They can go on our website, and that's where what I would recommend. And our website is www.loavesfishespantry.org. Once they go onto our website, although it's under construction, and my friend Scott here is helping us do that, if you hunt around, you'll find what you need. The important thing you want to look for if you want to volunteer is for our volunteer information sessions. We hold those a couple times a month. You can come in, get a tour of the pantry, and hear about the different ways, many of which Scott has mentioned today, ways that you can help.
Okay, great. Now, Patty, the folks who come to Loaves and Fishes need assistance for a whole variety of reasons. Let's talk about those things.
Sure. Well, first I wanted to mention that our clients can come to us from 7 communities: Air, Devens, Groton, Harvard, Littleton, Shirley, and we've just recently added Dunstable to our service area. We welcome them. So why do they come to us? For many, many reasons. And I often like to pause and tell you what happens when I have children come into the pantry, when I have the Girl Scout groups or the school groups come in, and I'm giving them a tour, and I say, so what do you think our clients look like? And without exception, they all come back and they say they're homeless. And I say, yes, they are. However, what would you do if I told you the people that come to the pantry look just like you and I? And the children can't believe it. And quite honestly, some of the parents can't believe it either, some of the adults. So I would answer you by saying they can be anybody, someone who might be living on a fixed income, such as a retiree who's on Social Security or their pension. Might be a veteran who's on veterans benefits. Those people's salaries are not going to change. They have difficulties coming through, and we hear the stories every day. But it might also be that family that has a health issue with them, with one of the members in their family, or a job loss, or dual income loss in the household. those are reasons people come to us. Really, the answers are as varied as our neighbors are. Folks can come to us for a long term if they need to, if they're on fixed incomes. That's not a problem at all. Matter of fact, about 40 to 50% of our clientele are on fixed incomes. So they're not going to go away. They will need the pantry services and support from now well into the future. But there are also those families that come to us that might just have their furnace have a problem and they don't have the money to pay for it. Or they've encountered some problem with their car or some major expense, and they can come to us as well.
And Scott, if someone who might need some assistance lives outside of the 7 communities, they can come on a one-time basis, I understand?
Yeah, so if someone that is not in those 7 communities arrives at the pantry looking for help, they will be provided with a bag of food, and more importantly, we'll try to help them find resources that do serve their communities. There's very few communities around here that don't have some sort of food assistance available, and so it's a combination of we won't just turn you away and say sorry. We will try to provide some help on the spot, but also try to guide you to some help that can last for a long time.
Okay, now, where the heck does all this food come from?
So that's a great question, and there is an immense amount of food. As we talked about, 600,000 pounds of food. In fact, 6,000 to 7,000 pounds of food every time we're open. And so that food comes from individual donors, especially for non-perishable food, because that's easier for them to donate and easier for us to store. But it also comes from area grocery stores. It comes from area farms donating produce. In fact, Littleton Community Farm here in Littleton is one of those farms that has donated food to us. We also have food that we buy, and so most of the food that we buy comes from the Greater Boston Food Bank, and we can buy at very advantageous prices there because that's what they're set up for. And so in turn, that raises the question of how do we pay for it, and that comes from donations primarily as well. There's some grants and some business support in there, but 56% of our financial donations come from individuals. And we use those funds to purchase food in many cases or operate our programs to serve the clients that come in. And that can be donations that come in on a regular basis and buy food every time we need to buy food, or it can be a once a year kind of thing, like our Thanksgiving and holiday dinner distribution, which is coming up here shortly. We used to accept frozen turkeys for our Thanksgiving distribution. It's a distribution where we try to provide the fixins for a real holiday meal for clients on that day, as we all would enjoy that meal. And the trouble is, if you're trying to serve hundreds of clients, you can't really store 400 turkeys, even in our larger freezer that we have for our normal food supply. And so several years ago, we started asking the donors if they would donate funds, which we could use to buy the assortment of sizes we knew we needed at an advantageous price because we were buying so many just in time to distribute for those events. And it's been very successful, and that'll be coming up again here soon in early November. So we'll be asking the community if they can donate some funds for us to go out and buy those turkeys and hams and fixins and things for the Thanksgiving and the holidays in December for those 2 special distributions.
Okay,
So all kinds.
And Patty, you and I and other folks can drop food off at many drop-off points that you have. I know that there are, well, right in the center of Air, I know the post office, you have the library, and tell us about some of the other locations.
Sure, we have donation boxes throughout all 7 of our communities. You might see them in a bank, in a school, police station, fire station, the town halls, and the grocery stores as well. So we encourage you, when you might go to the grocery store, to pick up a couple of extra items and drop it in one of the local donation boxes. But that's not the only place that you can drop off donations. You can come directly to Loaves and Fishes anytime we're open. We are open on Wednesdays and Fridays every week. We are open on the 1st and 3rd Saturdays of each month and the 2nd Tuesday of each month. And all of this information is on the website. It took me years to remember all of that. But we gladly will accept any donations that come through our doors during those times.
Okay.
And we should also mention that, of course, you can also run a food drive.
Yes.
As a business, as a school, but also as a neighborhood. So one of our largest sources of food donations now is called the Neighborhood Food Project. And it's a system where a neighborhood coordinator will contact all of the people that live near them, provide them with a green bag, and over 2 months or so, you'll just buy a little bit extra each time you shop, put it in the green bag, non-perishables, of course. And at the end of the 2 months, the coordinator comes around and picks it up, and it all gets brought to the pantry. And so we have some towns donating more than 6,000 pounds of food every 2 months through this program. There are neighborhoods in Littleton participating, and Groton was the original one in this area that started doing this. And then we have other neighborhoods in our other towns now doing this as well. And it's a tremendous source of food, and it's a nice way for neighbors to actually know each other in a day and age where that's not as common as it once was.
You know, neighbors can be taken in many different ways. It can be the neighbors within your residential neighborhood, or you might want to start a neighborhood in your church, in your school, a classroom. It might be a business neighborhood. It might be your family and friends that don't live anywhere near you. So a neighborhood can be defined any way you wish it to be.
Okay. Now, you have some special events coming up.
We do.
Let's talk about
Those are important to get out there. So as Scott mentioned, we do have our Thanksgiving dinner distribution coming up. That'll be the Monday before Thanksgiving. And on that day, we'll serve between 300 and 400 families, giving them all of the fixings for their holiday meals. We also will do that again before Christmas, and I believe the date is the 16th, December 16th. So folks can get the fixings for that holiday meal as well.
Okay, now if someone would like to drop off something in person, have we given the address?
We have it.
Let's do that right now.
234 Barnum Road in Devens, Mass.
Okay, and that's right next to the post office in
It
Devens.
is right next to the post office, right around the Air Rotary onto Barnum Road.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
I would just follow up that thought with on the website where you can see our hours that we're open. Those donations are accepted during the open pantry hours and a few other time slots when we're there for other reasons, stocking shelves and things. And so if someone does want to drop food off at the pantry, they can check there to see what times they're allowed to drop them off, that somebody will be there to accept them. Other than that, I would say, as I mentioned earlier, certainly funds are welcome for those special events in November and December, but those are also great volunteer opportunities. If someone wants to get to know the pantry and try volunteering, those are nice one-time ways to do that, where they can come and help direct traffic in the parking lot or help clients come through the pantry or in numerous other activities. And get started and see if they like helping at the pantry, and then they can explore longer term opportunities as well. So as Patty said earlier, if someone's interested in volunteering, between now and mid-November would be a great time to stop by the website, see when our next volunteer information session is, and come on in and learn a little bit more.
Okay.
I think, actually, yes, we've talked a lot about volunteers and donors, and I don't want to leave out the most important piece and the reason why we are there at Loaves and Fishes, and that's our clients. So I would say that if there is anybody out there in TV land that needs our help, they need to come and see us. It doesn't matter who you are, just be from one of our communities. What your problem is, we're not going to ask you for anything except for a proof of residency. So that's a utility bill, for example, that has your name, your address, and a current date on it. That is it. There is no income requirement. We won't ask you a ton of questions. It's a warm, welcoming place. And if I could say anything, I think that's the most important piece to get across to the TV viewers today.
Okay, and to follow up on that, if you need something, they're very easy folks there to make you feel really comfortable about everything. Well, that's today's show. As part of my preparation for this show, I got a cook's tour of Loaves and Fishes. While I was there, I met some of the employees and volunteers. And I have to tell you, I was struck by the pleasant and upbeat atmosphere that they all extended to all of the folks coming in for assistance. That's today's show. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.